Welcome back, everybody, to another podcast from Hard Hat Uncovered. We're coming to you live from the studios in Alexandria, Virginia.
Woo, woo, you pump me up every time with that, Junior.
Absolutely, my heart's beating fast.
Welcome back, everybody. So this is the New Year's 2019, already starting off strong. Welcome back, Lieutenant Oates.
Hey, man, good to be back. New year, hit it hard.
Don't hit it soft.
Welcome back, Mr. Hipple.
How's it going, everyone?
So we're starting off the New Year's. How was y'all's New Year's? How did it start off?
Oh, great. You know, new year, new me.
Yeah,
I'm a walking cliche.
Right. I'm well rested, ready for 2019, baby. Let's do this.
I didn't get that collect call from y'all over the holidays, so
No.
I guess y'all stayed out of trouble.
Yeah, first time in 3 years. No.
I stayed at home and drunk. I'm just saying.
All right. So this is the new podcast for the new year, and actually we're gonna take a step back in time a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So we did have our first feedback that came from one of our listeners out there from Hawk Safety Depot.
And we appreciate the feedback, so keep it coming because, this is a new thing. We want to hear what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, how we can improve. So keep the feedback rolling in.
Yep. And so again, appreciate it, Mr. Adam Hawkins. If you're out there listening, you get the thumbs up, and we appreciate it. So he gave us feedback on our podcast number 3, which was the back injury. And one of the things that he brought to our attention was there's a safety magazine that recently had posted out there a topic on stretching and how it does not benefit the workplace. And so I thought that was great, because one of the things that we constantly fight out there in the field is trying to promote these stretches out in the field and talk about how it's a good thing. So then how do you combat it when now a safety magazine puts out this article that someone wrote that says it's not, it's not worth doing it. It's not worth the cost. So,
Right.
But just to hit on some of the numbers. So, we went through and we read this article, and just to hit on some of the numbers, basically what they came up to was that it cost about an average size company, that's about 250 employees that are working out in the field. If they implement a stretch and flex program, they say on average, according to the recommended stretches from the American College of Sports Medicine and the burden labor cost, that it's averaging about $400,000 a year. And I went back and listened to our podcast, and one of the comments that we had said in there was, 5 minutes a day, 5 times a week, it's going to come out to like $1,500 a year. And I didn't realize how close we were when we were saying that comment, because according to this research that they put together in the article, they said it's around $535 to $1,800 per employee per
Right.
individual that's out there.
And when you have a larger company, or in this case, an average size company of 250 employees, that's when that 400,000 number comes in. It's going to seem big, but in reality, 250 employees, it's a pretty large company.
Right. Yeah. So, and then what else we got out of that magazine, or I'm sorry, out of the article itself, was that that to have a stretch and flex program, he's stating in there that you need to be able to justify. You need to be able to justify, if I'm going to spend $1,300, $1,400 per year on an employee, I need to be able to justify that there isn't a return on investment,
Right.
I guess you could say it.
They're going to want to make sure that the money they're putting into doing the stretching is actually going to pay out in the long run. Is it going to prevent these injuries, which cost X amount of dollars at the end of the year? So everybody wants us to justify numbers.
You can't justify numbers in safety until after the fact. You know what I mean? You don't know what it is. You can't predict how much it's going to be, how much an injury is going to be. You know what I mean? So after the fact, after the injury happens, that's when the numbers come in.
Right. But I'll tell you what, one thing that I found when I was reading this article is they were really hitting on passive active stretching. And so just to break it down, I'm going to get all geeky again. So safety nerdy. And actually, again, thanks to our listener that sent this, because I actually learned as we're doing this research, I actually learned that there's different type of stretches and how they classify them. And so in this article, they're talking about the passive active stretching. I found out that there is a ballistic stretching, that there's static stretching, there's dynamic stretching. And so when it comes to the typical stretch and flex that we're doing on the job sites, it is the passive active stretching. So basically, it's getting that muscle extended out as far as you can, and then holding it there for 10 or 15 seconds, and then releasing the muscle.
Which is a similar stretch to what we're doing a lot of the times out on these job sites. We're crossing our arms in front of our body and getting that shoulder, that arm stretch out and holding it there. So, passive active stretching is something that occurs on the job site when we're running a stretch and flex program.
Absolutely. And if they're talking about reducing strength, you're not required to lift heavy objects on the job anyway. So I don't understand how that can really go against what we're doing as far as stretching.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Because we're not lifting anything over, usually the weight limit is 50 pounds.
Right.
Okay, so passive active, I don't think that passive active stretching, I don't think that would affect employee as much as a person might
Right.
think.
Yeah, because that was the biggest thing that the research in this article was saying, that the passive active stretching, it reduces an individual's strength by I don't remember the number. I think it was 25%, which in our standards, which is okay, because we don't want an employee to go and try to lift 150 pounds by themselves. So if they got it reduced by 25%, that's still, I guess if you want to throw a safety factor in there, we're still well within the range of a safety factor to where they're not doing that. But it was an interesting article, I will say that. So, and again, I learned some new stuff coming out of it. But as far as the return on investment, as far as it goes when it comes to, hey, how do you justify a stretch and flex program? We were talking about this off air, I guess you'd say. We were talking about this off air. And we're saying, if I see an individual on a job site, let's say he's 10 foot off the ground and he's not properly tied off, and I correct him, and then I potentially prevented an injury because this guy might have fallen, might not have fallen. But let's just say if I did prevent an injury from occurring, how much money did I really save the company?
Yeah, you have no idea. There's no way to really measure how much we're saving by doing a stretch and flex program. It's ineffective to really try and come up with a number because you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Now, what I can tell you is, looking back, I can tell you how much a back injury cost on an individual basis.
We've had some pretty high ones on jobs we've worked on together. I mean, Junior can sit here and tell you the numbers, but we've had one injury, almost reach $1 million, and it's continuing to climb for a back injury. So you never know how much that one back injury is going to cost you.
Right. So let's just say, I have been on a job where they had to do back surgery on an individual, and that one went over $1 million because they did have to have back surgery. Now, if you want to talk about a return on investment, and you say, okay, well, that injury cost $1 million, but what if we would have had that one individual in his crew doing stretches, and we possibly could have prevented that? Well, that $400,000 done wrote itself off. That check's already been.
Yeah. And that number was from 250 employees, not one.
Right.
It's
right.
a big difference.
But let me speak on this for a little bit, because like I said, I've been around for a little bit, about 25, 26 years in the trade, construction industry. But back when I first started, there was no such thing as stretch and flex. Stretch and flex, to me, even in the trade, is fairly new, right? And when I say new, I'm talking like 10 years old. That's new in the construction industry, because you're going to have a lot of people that don't want to do stretch and flex. They're going to fight it. But as far as to my memory, since stretch and flexing, since we've been doing stretch and flex, the amount of back injury, strains and stuff, it's decreased in my eyes, because I was on jobs that there was no weight limit. You could go out there and pick up 150 pounds. You could throw oxygen bottles of acetylene on your acetylene bottles on your shoulder and walk upstairs and stuff like that. They didn't have anything like stretch and flex or getting somebody to help you lift stuff. But from what I see, since stretch and flex, the amount of back injuries, strains, sprains, stuff like that, it's decreased from what I can see.
Yeah, and I can tell you this. I'm going to repeat, actually. It's hard to say how much is being saved out there when it comes to these types of back injuries. But so we did our due diligence, and we went in there and researched ourselves, and then I'm going to be able to actually say, hey, in this magazine, right? So the Medical Science Sports Exercise Journal, that's a mouthful right there. They actually did a study and it was called viscoelastic stress relaxation. And it was just showing the difference between the static stretching and the dynamic stretching. And their research, said that, hey, it has proven to be beneficial to the body. It has proven to, to increase the abilities of an individual, right? So now they did say, and I'm just going to throw this out there because I did mention earlier about ballistic stretching, which is getting the muscle extended all the way out to its furthest point and then doing these jerking motions or something like that, which I don't see in any of our stretches. But they did say, hey, that does cause, injury and harm and so forth. But again, I don't see those type of stretches. And if you are doing those types of stretches out on your job site, then I would just say I'd recommend probably not doing that.
Right.
But the biggest thing that we were discussing was what, Lieutenant Oates, we were talking about when you were in track, the type of stretches that y'all were doing.
Right, hurdle stretch, groin stretch, hamstring stretch and stuff like that. You had to loosen up before you ran. If not, you could pull a Charlie horse or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, it was beneficial. I felt better before, I ran. If I stretched before I ran, I felt much better. So.
Yeah, and back when I played football, it was the same thing. There were days that I stretched hard, and there was days that I just kind of went through the motions. And you can tell the difference in your body when you actually sit and go through your stretches the right way, and when you kind of just, make your way through it, not trying real hard. You definitely feel the difference. It takes a little more, takes longer the less you stretch. The more you stretch, the better you get your body warmed up and ready to go, the quicker you are ready to go to full strength or full potential.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and if you think about, this weekend started off the playoff season for the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Now think about how much stretching those guys are out there doing. Now you're talking about players that are, on these big multi-million-dollar contracts, and these teams will hire entire staffs just to stretch out employees, provide a stretching program. Some of these some of these players will go out on their own after a football game and go do, their own types of stretching, or get a bathtub of ice, whichever one works better, right?
Yeah.
But, it's because the research is out there showing that these stretches do, they do prevent injuries. And also after you've had an injury, doing stretches, helps it out. So.
Yeah, try to go tell one of them football players that stretching doesn't do anything. See what they say to you.
Right.
Yeah, but so just to wrap up, just on that feedback itself, when we talk about that, there's no silver bullet answer when it comes to safety, right? I can't go out there with one comment, one program, and create an entire safety culture off of one thing. I think the same applies when it comes to the stretching. There's so many things that's out there right now. There's ergonomics. There's the stretch and flex that like we're talking about. There's I don't know if you have ever heard of it, but there's a therapy called art therapy, active release technique therapy, and so that's another type of stretching that they do for injured employees. And I had them try it on me just to see what it feels like, and I tell you what, that's definitely a stretch that they, that they make you do. And then whenever I had to write a paper one time on anthropometry, and it's just another type of study that's out there that just discusses, hey, this person has, an arm length of this long or a torso this long, and so we're going to build a safety program around that, or we're going to build safety measures, PPE, ergonomics around that, which has to do with NIOSH and the lifting equation. We're not going to go back into, we don't want to pull the NIOSH lifting equation card out.
No.
But there's so many things out there, and I'm a strong believer in all of those things. I believe that ergonomics helps prevent injuries. I believe stretch and flex prevents injuries. I believe, all of the NIOSH lifting equation.
It's a combination of these things.
All of those things. There's not a silver bullet answer to prevent back injuries out there. I think it's a combination of all, and it's on a case-by-case basis. Just because ergonomics might be the answer for me, well, stretch and flex might be the answer for somebody else, or again, a combination of it all. So again, thank you to our listener from Hawk Safety Depot for that feedback, and if you want to send in any feedback, questions, anything you want us to discuss on our shows here, you can reach us at hardhatuncovered@gmail.com. That's all one word, all lowercase, or you can just provide us a comment on YouTube or any of the platforms out there. Just reach out to us. Maybe one day we'll give out Lieutenant Oates' personal number, and he'll field all these.
Please do.
He'll field all these calls. So, all right. So back on track. So we're talking about the New Year's. Just getting back into the groove of things, right? So most people, during the holidays, they take time off. They get to, enjoy some of that relaxation, or like Lieutenant Oates likes to say, you get to get on your neck for a little bit.
That's right. Get on that neck, baby.
You've spent the whole year working. Now it's time to stretch the neck a little
Absolutely.
bit. Or in my case, stretch the pants a little bit.
Absolutely.
And but now we're back to work.
Yeah,
right?
we're out of plumping season.
Yep. Now I got to work off that winter weight.
That's right.
But with that being said, now it's time to get back into the safety mentality. Right now, it's time to get back into, doing things right. Not just checking all the boxes, but just making sure that we're actually following through with everything that we said we're going to do. But I think it's also, I've heard sayings like, hey, this is the next 12 chapters of your life is coming up this year. I've heard, you hear all those cliches, all those sayings when the new year starts off. And I don't see why we can't apply it when it comes to safety.
Right. I mean, everybody's, new year, new me, setting their personal goals for their new year resolution. But we can do the same thing with safety, right?
Yep.
We're going to work on setting up goals for the year, setting up goals for the month. We're gonna, make our plan and work towards it. And that's what we're here to do.
Yep. And I don't know about y'all, but every year I start my New Year's resolution, about losing weight and going to the gym. And every year I fail it, right? So
Yeah.
just the same way that we could fail our personal resolutions, if you're not set up for success, you can fail your safety resolutions in your organization.
Absolutely.
All right, so what we put together is just a couple of topics on how to make sure that you're successful when it comes to safety in 2019. It's nothing too far out there. We're not asking you to build a rocket. Unless you're listening and you're a rocket engineer, then please build your rocket.
Yeah.
But for the rest of us, I think we've kept it pretty simple. So the big thing is, again, just like when it comes to a personal resolution, it's got to be an achievable goal.
Yeah. And a good example of this is, you have a company and you don't really have a safety culture, and you say, hey, this year we're going to create a safety culture from scratch, and we want to achieve these goals this month. It's probably not realistic to think that you can go from not having a culture to instilling this safety culture all that fast. So small steps at a time, right? First thing you might want to start with, okay, we're going to have our guys start stretching, 1 or 2 days a week. We were just talking about back safety and stretch flex. Maybe we start that program and slowly keep adding things in and make these goals achievable so that we can actually accomplish them and then feel good about accomplishing them.
Mm-hmm. But the main thing about that, anytime you start something new, this is like off the track just a little bit. A lot of people get discouraged, right? Because you're working with a lot of different people, and everybody's not going to always be on the same page with you. Especially when you're starting out trying to do something new. So don't get discouraged. Just work at it a little bit at a time, bit by bit, piece by piece, until things start to fall into place. Because it's real easy to get discouraged, because a lot of times we're looked at as warm bodies. We're looked at as the people we're coming out there trying to interfere with everything. So just, don't get discouraged and take it bit by bit.
Yep, absolutely. Hey, and so what we're going to do just real fast before we move on. So Lieutenant Oates, I got to apologize because I'm about to call you out. But if y'all are listening, y'all are probably wondering why Lieutenant Oates sounds a little different than the rest of us. So I'm going to ask him to twist his mic just a little bit so he's talking into his mic. Keep twisting it. Hold on, let me help you out there.
Right there. Is that it? Is that it? Oh, wow.
Nailed it.
Yeah, that's what I was about to do.
There we go.
Yeah, there you go.
I was wondering why you were whispering.
I know, man. I'm used to that Barry White voice.
Yeah. Good evening.
All right, now we're back on track here. Okay, so we talked about the start,
I thought we did a mic check.
Hey,
Okay, so I'm going to be talking for 45 minutes.
Mic check,
no
one,
mic
two,
check.
1, 2, 1, 2.
Right, okay, I got you.
You were just talking so loud.
Right,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I was feeling the vibrations from your voice. That's what it was.
I got you.
All right. So we talked about, something as simple as implementing a stretches. Say, hey, maybe once or twice a week to start off. Same thing. Holding safety meetings once or twice a week just to start off. You know, because realistically, like Dylan said, it's tough to go in there and say, hey, we're not doing any stretches. We're not holding any type of safety meetings. We're not doing anything like that. Now let's run in there and go, 100 miles an hour, and let's just go in full speed. I think if you're not prepared to do something like that, or if your organization's not prepared to do something like that, it's just going to crash.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, another thing we could start doing is sending out a toolbox talk. Toolbox talks to get people's mind back in gear as far as working, because a lot of times coming back from the holidays, it takes a person some time to get back in gear for work. You know what I mean? And thinking safely, stuff like that. Toolbox talks, they help a lot.
Yep. Yeah, and it could be just the toolbox talks can be something so simple. It could be, hey guys, this week we're going to focus on making sure we have our glasses on.
Yep.
I mean, just something so simple. Think about when you're driving down the road, how many times you look over and see a crew working on the side of the road, and those guys are, missing their glasses, don't have their hard hat on, or something like that. And I believe something as simple like you're saying, Lieutenant Oates, is just a toolbox talk that says this week we're going to focus on wearing our glasses, and raising that awareness could make all the difference in the world. Absolutely. Yep. And so. But that's going to happen, and I'm going to throw in a little plug in for our campaign there for the Change One Thing. It's just basically it's changing one thing at a time, right? So we're not going to again, we don't want to hit it too hard and come in full throttle, and then say, okay, guys, 2019, new year, new me, new you, and then we're going to focus on glasses, PPE. We're going to focus on fall protection. We're going to focus on writing new safety programs, writing our industrial hygiene program, our confined space program. I mean, granted, all these things should be in place,
right?
In a perfect world,
But if you didn't have them in place before, you're not going to get them in place all at once. So start out small. Like Junior said, change one thing. So maybe your goal at the beginning of the year is to change one thing a day, or change one program a week or a month, or whatever. Make that goal attainable. If you set that goal out there, something unrealistic, and then you're not hitting your goal, you're going to get discouraged and you're going to move away from it. So the change in one thing, that's something you can accomplish every single day. You can go out and you can have that goal to change one thing. You do that one thing, and then you feel successful in what you're doing.
Right. Yeah. And then start by recognizing employees for doing good stuff. You know what I mean? Because sometimes a person wants to feel like they're appreciated. So start recognizing people, making them feel like they're part of the team. You know what I mean? That does a lot for morale on a job site.
Yeah, and most companies nowadays have some sort of stop work policy in place, right? But it never gets exercised. Well, maybe the goal is to actually use the stop work authority when it's necessary. You see something unsafe, you go out and you stop the work. That's your goal. Your goal is to make a difference by finding that unsafe behavior and stopping the work for the day.
Yep. Yep. And there's all kind of levels of that. Just because we say stop the work doesn't mean necessarily that
shut the job down now.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily. Maybe it's just stopping the work for one individual,
right?
Stopping one task for one individual or something like that. And it's, I've been on jobs where you go in and ask individuals, hey, y'all got a stop work program? Absolutely. You got the big old stop sign hard hat on the side of their everyone's got it. Well, how many times you seen somebody working unsafe and stop them?
Right. You better not shut down production. Never. Because that's the mindset of the worker on the job. You can't be the worker out there running around stopping jobs, because now the supervision might look at you as a problem. Even though you're doing good by stopping jobs because people are working unsafe, sometimes when it goes above your head, people look at it differently. That's why you got to start the conversations with the supervision to let them know, hey, this is what we're trying to do. Not trying to stop production, not trying to mess your operation up. We're trying to help people make it through the day without any incidents.
So, my challenge for anybody listening to this right now is, if your company has that stop work policy in place and you see something unsafe and actually can validate the stop work, stop that work. So I challenge everyone to, within the next couple of weeks, exercise that right to stop the work and use it as a teaching moment. And maybe just send us a message, let us know what you did, and we'll either recognize you or not recognize you depending on what you want. But I challenge everyone listening to go out and do that.
Yeah, and so something else that we can do out there as well. So we talked about toolbox talks. We talked about having start holding safety meetings and starting stretches. Now we're talking about recognizing employees, exercising stop work authority. utilizing that time maybe once a week to do a 5-minute training while we're doing the toolbox talk. Mm-hmm. Hey guys, this is how you properly are supposed to wear your glasses. Mm-hmm. Not down on the edge of your nose. We don't want you to have the safest forehead on the job site by putting safety glasses on your forehead. Right. A little 2 or 3 minute training when you're rolling out that toolbox talk could also make a world of difference. So how's that going to happen? Now let's just say we're talking about rolling these new things out on your organization. Well, what if you have a foreman who's never ever had to deliver a 2-minute safety training? Well, now you got resources you got to start utilizing within your organization. So think about some of the resources that you have. We have the safety guys that's out there, or the safety, gals, however you want to say it out there.
We got superintendents, project managers, engineers, all these different levels of employees, all with different background knowledge. Everybody knows different things. So go find that resource that makes sense for what you're doing.
Sometimes you have people right on the same, on your very crew.
Yeah, exactly.
That's got the experience, that's been around for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Turn to that guy too. Just because you're a foreman, you can still go to the crew members because they're doing the work for you anyway.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And then I know throughout my career, you're on a crew with guys that have been foremen before, GFs before and stuff like that. So they do have that background. So you got to kind of get to know your people that you're working around and utilize them as well.
Yeah. And so how's that going to work? So we had a podcast that talked about good communication, right? Mm-hmm. And so if I have individuals on my crew and I don't even know that they have that type of knowledge or if they have that type of experience, then that means I'm not creating that line of communication with my guys in the field to understand that they have, I'm not saying, hey, you need to go out there and ask your crew members about their married life, about how they raise their children, or which way did they vote, or anything like that. We're strictly talking about open line of communication for their experience and for their knowledge. Yep. And then before you know it, you have now realized, hey, I have a resource on my job that I didn't even realize that I had before.
Yeah, you gain a lot of knowledge about someone in a short conversation. So
absolutely,
I encourage you to go out and just start those conversations. Get to know some people. Get to know their background, what they're good at, what they're not good at. It'll help you as a leader also put them in the best place to succeed.
Yeah. Not only as a leader, as a safety professional, because when we show up, people run for the hills. When safety professionals show up, people run for the hills. So you need to be able to approach them and talk to them, give them some background about you to let them know, hey, I understand what you're going through. I understand the boat you're in. I've been in that boat. So, I'm here to help. That's the main thing. That's the main thing that they need to understand and be aware of, that you're there to help, not to try to hinder them.
Yep, exactly.
Yep. Other resources, right? I know I've been on jobs where we've gotten new tools and new equipment. We've called the vendor on the job site and said, hey, look,
Show us how to do it.
Show me the way.
Some of the best guys to do the training, tell you about the tool. A good example, the new silica roll, we had all the new attachments. So we had Hilti come out, and they showed us everything these Hilti tools can do, from vacuum attachments to water attachments to hollow drill bits that allow the dust to be sucked up. So there's just so many different resources out there. I believe United Rentals is probably another good one that has a lot of knowledge and training experience. So any of your equipment you're renting, you're buying, they all have those reps that are very knowledgeable in what they're selling you. So reach out to them, find out what they know, what you can find out a lot of information from them.
And typically those vendors, they're not even going to charge you because you're already buying their equipment,
right?
Or you're renting their equipment.
You probably spend $100,000 a year on stuff, so they're going to give you this information for free most of the time.
Yeah, they got a vested interest in you liking their product,
right? For you to come.
So
back
why wouldn't they want to come out and say,
Yep.
"Oh, look, this is the best and safest way to use my equipment"? Because if we get hurt using their equipment, then I might not want to buy their equipment anymore.
Right.
I might go somewhere else.
Right.
Yep. And then the last thing, don't forget as a resource that we do have management. So not just supervision, not just the foreman superintendent. We have, we have, again, we don't want to leave out the CEOs. We don't want to leave out the regional managers and stuff like that, because those individuals have knowledge as well.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? They're just, they're not there as a paperweight, when it comes to the job site that's going on, the work going on in the field. So we can utilize those individuals as a resource. So to do that, though, we got to grow and extend our boundaries when it comes to safety. I like your new year, new me deal, right?
Yeah.
So it's a new year, right? So we need to expand how we're doing safety.
We always talk about safety is everyone's job, but it really is, and that's what we need to do is grow that boundary to encompass everyone within an organization.
Absolutely, because it takes for management to empower the worker on the job site to let them know, hey, you're just as important as everybody else.
Yep, 100%.
You know what I mean? Because that way, if you don't give them that, if you don't give them that platform to stand on, you'll never get anything out of them. As far as safety, they won't stop a job. They won't talk to somebody. They won't tell their foreman, hey, that's unsafe. I'm not going to do it. They feel like in order for me to stay, I got to do whatever he tells me to do.
So how do we go from getting everyone to look down at the safety guy like, oh, here comes the safety guy again. He's going to give me a hard time. How do we get that person to change their view into, this is a resource. This is somebody that, safety is a good thing on our site. Everybody should want to have safety on their site.
You gotta be able to know how to talk to them and to relate to them.
Mm-hmm.
You can't be the quote unquote safety cop. You can't be the quote unquote safety enforcer.
Right.
You know what I mean? You have to be the guy that's coming out there and talking to them and letting them know, hey, I'm here to help. This is what we should be doing. I recommend this. You shouldn't do that. You know what I mean? It's a lot of things that you can give the employee for them to understand you better.
And that doesn't go for just us safety professionals. That's foreman, superintendent, anybody in more a management role. We need to make sure we have that open line of communication, and employees feel like they can bring up these safety concerns to us or to any management position, and then we're going to do something about it. We're not just going to let it go in one ear out the other.
No.
We need to back everything up. So that's what we're doing. We're empowering people in safety. We're growing the boundaries like Junior's talking about.
Yeah, and don't beat that individual up. And what I mean is if they bring up something, don't be that foreman, don't be that supervisor that's out there saying, hey, look, you're not getting paid to focus on those things. And so what we're going to do is we're going to shut down that communication, if we do that, right? So we need to make sure that we are not beating them up, not closing off that communication whenever they come in and to discuss, any safety concerns with us. But one thing that you were both of y'all were mentioning is that whenever the safety guy comes on the job site, the safety professional, they want to put their head down or they want to run for the hills or something like that. I'm going to give a little plug in for us safety professionals, right? is that treat your safety professionals on your job site like safety professionals. Now, everybody that's a safety professional might not have had the opportunity to come through and work on our tools and then go behind and get the education and certification like our team did. But that doesn't mean that they have no knowledge about safety.
Absolutely.
Somebody in your organization felt like this person has the knowledge that they need to get the job done. So when they come on your job site, or when we come on your job site, don't be like, oh man, here comes that dummy again. And here comes that waste of a paycheck.
But one thing I used to tell guys like craftsmen coming from the craft, I used to always tell them, look, you really got more safety experience than the safety professional because you've been out here for 15 years. And every job you have to deal with safety.
And different safety policies and procedures and rules.
So you have a lot more safety experience than you think you have. You know what I mean? So I let them know, I encourage them to be safe. Go home like you came to work, brother. You know what I mean? That's my main thing. I would not want somebody to come to the job, not listen, have an incident, get injured, and have to go home, and not be able to go back to work. You know what I mean? So I open the door to say, hey, man, we're all here to help. You know what I'm saying?
And I'm going to extend what Junior said earlier, but, don't treat your safety professional like they don't assume that your safety professional doesn't know anything about the tools or the trade
Absolutely.
or the craft. Like Damon, you worked how many years as a pipe fitter? You walk around as a safety guy. Most people are going to assume you don't know what's going on.
Absolutely.
I worked in construction, roofing, cell tower climbing, all kinds of stuff. People automatically assume I don't know what's going on with tools.
Right.
That's not the case. Don't just assume your safety professional's never worked or doesn't know, because most of the time they have, and they've been around construction long enough that they know what's going on. And sometimes they're going to have a better way of doing things, but not all the time.
Not all the time.
But just have that open mind about that person, about your professional on site.
Right.
Yeah, and I could tell you, there's times that I've come up on a job site and know exactly how to get that job done, know why they're doing it that way, why they want to take the shortcut, because I've done it myself.
Absolutely.
But I've come up literally acting like I have no clue what's going on, because I want them. What I'm hoping is that as I ask them, hey, why are you doing it this way? Oh, what's the purpose
They're
of that?
going to catch themselves.
I'm hoping they're going to catch themselves, and then sometimes when I realize they're not, then I start, well, what if we did it this way?
Absolutely.
You know, what if
That's
we did it that way? But I think there's also a catch-22, because I think sometimes I come off like I have no idea what I'm talking about.
Right, when in reality you just want them to figure it out
Right.
before you tell them.
Yep. But you know, with also that being said, it's a two-way street. Just the same way I'm saying, hey, or asking for, you know, all of our listeners to show your safety, you know, professionals some respect and to treat them like they know what they're doing. On the flip side, we shouldn't be them safety professionals that come on the job site and abusing that power either.
Not at all.
You know, down talking the employees out in the field, you know, treating them like less than just because, you know, they're out there getting dirty and, you know, and we're up on top of the excavation looking down on them. You know, it should never, we should never abuse our power that way.
Never.
No, one side's not better than the other, right?
Not at all.
You know,
That's the whole thing about the team and everybody coming together. You know what I mean? You got to form a circle, right? You can't form a half a circle. You can't. You know what I mean? You got to form a full circle for everybody to be, you know, looked at as a team member, and that goes through conversation. You know what I mean? You can know everything about safety, but the way you deliver and the way you come across to people, they don't want to hear nothing that you got to say. You know, but if you know how to talk to people, how to approach them, how to make them feel part of the team, and they'll listen to you. They'll let you know when stuff's going on.
Yeah, so any safety professionals out there listening, you know, just take that into consideration. Don't be that cop. Don't come off like you're better than someone. Don't act like you know everything, because you definitely don't. Nobody knows everything.
You're going to get a lot of kickback.
Yeah. So walk into every situation with an open mind and listen to your craft employees and what they have to say.
Yeah. You know, with that being said, it's you know, we're talking about extending the boundaries, right? And just creating those safety opportunities, you know, whether it's something like, you know, I'm a strong proponent of putting together a safety committee. And the reason I am a strong proponent of that is because that's how I came up into safety. I got offered a role, I guess you could say, into the safety committee for the company I was working with. And I'm not gonna lie, I first didn't want nothing to do with it. I'm like, nah.
Nobody else, nobody ever does.
Yeah.
Especially from the craft. You're looking at, well, what's wrong with me? Why do you want me to go in safety?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not knowing that person saw something in you, that you can make changes from the perspective of the employees, for other craftspeople.
Yep.
You can make the changes. That's usually how you get on the safety committee.
And I'm going to be pretty honest. I sold out for a free lunch. So, hey, but it worked, right?
Yeah.
But, you know, with that being said, you know, I would have never thought 13 years ago now that invitation into a safety committee, you know, would have turned me into a safety professional.
Yeah, get you on top over there, old top dog.
Right.
You know, so you know, that's another thing, right? So now we're talking about ways to improve our safety culture. You know, starting a safety committee. You know, there's companies I've been with, organizations that have continuous improvement programs out there where it's not necessarily a safety committee, but it's a, hey everyone, we're going to start this program that if you have a safer or a better way of doing something, submit it in and we'll give you a $20 gift card, or we'll give you some swag. Or
we did something similar called a Kaizen. I don't know if anybody knows what Kaizen is, but it's same thing. You have a safer, more efficient way of doing something. You fill out a form, a Kaizen form, and all of a sudden you're getting rewarded for coming up with this better, safer way of doing something.
I'm glad you explained that, because I was about to say I had a Kaizen at lunch the other day, but you know, hey, whatever.
No.
No, that was a hoagie.
Okay,
that was a hoagie.
I was like trying to make a name up for it. You know?
So you know, safety committees, right? Continuous improvement programs. You know, and earlier we talked about utilizing resources, but to create that safer environment, we need to make sure we're also extending those boundaries out to other departments, right? So making sure that, hey, you know what, I could probably pull on the ear of the quality control manager, and that individual might be able to give me ideas on how to recommend a safer way to do something.
Absolutely.
Right. Making your different departments transcend between each other, transparent between each other. You know, open that line of communication, because like we keep talking about, different people have different ways of doing things, and somebody's going to be better at some point.
And I can tell you this, quality control, when they're on the job, to me, they leave the safety to the construction side of it. You know what I mean? You know, like quality control is like
they walk by safety.
Right, I'm quality control. You know, that's safety stuff. That's dealing with construction. But safety deals with everything, because walking working surfaces. You know what I mean? To be a QC, you got to go from A to B. You know what I mean?
You throwing QCs under the bus right now?
Not at all. Never. You know, I love QCs. Is that a quarter pounder?
He's saying QC is an acronym for quick checks.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
Quick check.
absolutely.
You know, the quick check out there.
Absolutely.
You know, but I can tell you this. How many times you've been on a job where someone got injured doing rework?
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's a quality issue, right?
Absolutely.
Something wasn't, the concrete wasn't poured right. The rebar wasn't laid right. The stairs weren't painted the right shade of yellow or whatever the case. So now we have to send employees back to do rework, and now we're exposing them to a hazard twice. So
They
if
got through it the first time,
Yep.
not the second time.
Yep. Now there's injuries because of rework, and I've been on jobs where the majority of the incidents were from rework, and it's just like, now if we would have worked all in unison together from the beginning with the quality, with the production, if we sat down with the engineer, figured out the scope of work, and really just sat down and had a round table, a planning discussion like Lieutenant Oates is always talking about, hey, it comes with the planning, it comes with the pre-planning, it comes with all this, sometimes we don't like sitting in meetings. I'm not going to lie. I've been in meetings that we've had about meetings.
Right.
We're gonna have a big meeting, so let's have a meeting about the big meeting. And at that point, I'm not gonna sit here and lie and say I'm all for every meeting. But if it's a productive meeting that we can have that can plan the job out and possibly prevent injuries or something like that, then absolutely, we need to make sure that we have it. And so, that's just making sure that we're getting everybody involved. And, if you're on your job site and you've ever had to ask, what does my safety professional do? What is HSE? What is SHE? What is EHS? However you want to flip it around, I can tell you right now. Well, go ahead, Dylan. What does the HSE stand for?
Health and safety and environment.
And environment, right?
3 separate topics, all in one.
So, I had an older individual that when he was getting ready to retire from safety, and I was still kind of in my first years of safety, he'd always tell me, you got to earn every letter. You can't just say that I'm the HSE guy, out on the job site. But he'd always say, you young guys, y'all gotta earn every letter, and I could be fortunate to say that in the industries I've worked, I've had to deal with each one of those very, in a deep dive sort of way.
So the healthier employees. So there's a lot of different programs we can do on our job sites to make our employees healthier in their lifestyles, whether it's encouraging them to eat better, to work out better, offering some sort of assistance programs. We really need to break down, like Junior's saying, break down our title and focus on each one of those different letters, HSE, so health,
Yep. Because think about it. Man, we think about, and I guarantee if you're listening and you've been on a construction site for, more than a year or something like that, you have had an individual that has come on your job site that has fallen out due to some type of health issue, a personal health issue, or something like that. So, we're not asking you to go out and write diet plans or workout plans or anything like that, for your employees out there. But, not just the physical health, but there's mental health, there's emotional health. I could be having a bad day at home, and then now I'm operating a crane, that next day. And all I'm thinking about is what I got going on at home.
It's hard to leave it at home. So offering these different programs to help employees work through that is very beneficial to not only that employee, but to you as a company.
Yep. And so now the safety side of it. So think about some of the things that we really, basically all of our topics when it comes to the safety side.
Right.
Whether it's the PPE, how you're setting up your equipment, your inspections, the tools that we're using, all of that encompasses the safety side of it, right? Which is, it's almost the easy thing as far as earning the S.
Right.
That just comes naturally. But then again, I've also worked with safety professionals that all they deal with is environmental.
Right.
And they don't even deal with the health or the safety side of it. All they do is they take air samples, they take samples on, all of that stuff. And that's all they do. They come in and work a 12-hour shift, or like you said, just doing soil samples, and that's it. But and
making sure they have a safe environment to work in, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because, I worked in the refineries, and there was times that, we had an industrial hygienist on the job site, and there was times that she would come and make sure that there was no high levels of benzene in the ground before we started digging.
Right.
And so that's, going back to what you're saying there, that's creating a safe environment for us to work in. Because there was a lot of times, and I'm not going to say on what specific refinery, but there was a lot of times we got to digging and stuff started seeping through the ground, and then we'd have to call up our industrial hygienist to come and check it out, and then she's saying, hey, look, y'all can't work in this area. Y'all need to move somewhere else.
So I mean, environment. I think of two things. The work environment which we're in, we want to create that as safe as possible, but also the environment we are living in and trying to sustain. There's two parts of that. We're making sure that we're not leaking chemicals into the earth. We're not polluting. There's two different sides to the environment, in my opinion.
Right.
Yep. So now all this is fine. It's all great. But if we're not actually out there, if we're just talking the talk, but we're not walking the walk, as the saying goes, it's not going to happen. It's not. We're not going to plant 3 beans in the ground and get the big vine, the tree or whatever to come out of the ground. Right. It's not going to work that way. We actually got to go out there and implement these things.
Right. It's great to have a meeting about this stuff, but once we leave this meeting, we don't implement anything.
Right.
Where did it get you? Right.
Right.
I can give the quarterback of the Seahawks. I can give what's his name, Russell Wilson. the playbook to defeat the Dallas Cowboys in the playoffs. But if we don't allow him to implement those plays, or if he doesn't go and study the playbook, he's not going to beat the Cowboys, right? Which I wish he would have.
Me too.
Don't worry about it.
No,
the Rams got him. Don't worry about it. The Rams got him.
I had to throw it in. I was rooting for Dallas to lose, man.
Don't worry. The Rams,
my team didn't even make the playoffs. We're like the Kardashians. A lot of drama going on in Pittsburgh right now.
Well, my team's going to the playoffs, through tickets. That's how they're going to the Super Bowl. They're buying tickets. So. Hey, but just to wrap it all up, we need to follow through with everything that we're saying, right? So we got to set achievable goals. We got to make sure that we're not pushing things so far out there that it's just going to fail from the first month, anyways. We need to make sure that we're expanding on the boundaries of safety, getting everybody involved in it, and just making sure that we're out there implementing these things and being a resource. Because I don't know about everyone listening. But I can speak for everyone in this room when I say that we want to have a successful safety program.
Right.
Because ultimately, at the end of the day, everyone's going to be going home safe at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
So,
in wrapping this up, just because we're talking about a New Year podcast, New Year resolution, New Year, new goals, something great to think about it is something we say at the end of every podcast, right? Making a change impacts me, making a difference impacts others, and making history impacts the world. So talk about it within your organization. How are you going to make that change, make the difference, make history?
Absolutely. I couldn't have said that better myself. So gentlemen, Happy New Year's again. That's our first podcast for 2019 in the books. And as always, coming to you live from the Hard Hat Studios in Alexandria, Virginia. This is Hard Hat Uncovered. Be sure to follow us on all podcast platforms, on all social media, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, at Hard Hat Uncovered.
Boy, I love your Bruce Buffer voice. Nailed it. All right. See you guys.
All right.